जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
मुर्दा बुतों से जान, मुर्दा बुतों से जान छुड़ाते तो खूब था।
Assalamu alaikum. I think let's begin.
Yes.
Can I request Bahat Aman Ahmed to portal out, please?
Assalamu alaikum.
Islam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل للمؤمنين يغضوا من أبصارهم ويحفظوا فروجهم ذلك أزكى لهم إن الله خبير بما يصنعون. وقل للمؤمنات يغضضن من أبصارهن ويحفظن فروجهن ولا يبدين زينتهن إلا ما ظهر منها وليضربن بخمرهن على جيوبهن. The translation of the verses recited before you is as follows. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, ever merciful. Say to the believing men that they restrain their eyes and guard their private parts. That is purer for them. Surely Allah is well aware of what they do. And say to the believing women that they restrain their eyes and guard their private parts, and that they disclose not their natural and artificial beauty, except that which is apparent thereof. Jazakallah.
Okay, Jazakumullah Jaza. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa hu wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Amma ba'du fa'uzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Right, today we're doing a topic which the Lajna, especially the Nasirat, are very keen on. So I hope that we get good anyway, we get good response from the Lajna. So the title is Modesty is Part of Faith. So the reason, like I say, is because Hazur's made this the Nasirat motto for this year, that modesty is part of faith. Our beloved Hazur gave this slogan for the year to the Nasirat, and he said that modesty is a part of faith, which is hadith from Bukhari and Muslim. And he went on to say that this will cover quite a number of things which will help you to do the tabiyat for your Nasirat. He continued to say that, inshallah, through this blessed motto, together, Nusrat will discover a new world. We will share our experiences, hold our heads up high, to lead the world with our actions, thoughts, and words. He continued that the task of moral training with regard to Nusrat is very significant. And this was said on the 30th December 2020. Now, I've taken many of these poster designs from the Lajna website or Nusrat website, and we will be showing them throughout this presentation. Mashallah, they've done a very good job. Right, so the purpose of hijab veiling in Islam is primarily to inspire modesty in both the men and women. In the Holy Quran, men are admonished at first regarding modesty that they should be lowering their gaze. And as you heard from the tilawat that was said in the beginning, that the men, it's very important that they also lower their eyes. And of course, the main purdah is of the mind and heart. Women and girls in Islam are highly esteemed, as in their hands is the future of the moral society. Muslim women wear hijabs and loose clothing to fulfill the command of Allah. It encourages them to be modest and not to dress in a manner that attracts men. The hijab is a protection for Muslim women against the unwanted gaze of men. A woman in a hijab is seen by onlookers to be guarding her modesty. Her message is very clear to everyone, that she does not want men to look at her. There is a lot of pressure on us that we should try to integrate and become English. Now, what they mean by this is that they want you to act like they act. The veil is a good example of this, as they want our women to remove the veil just like them. This society wants Muslim women to be free, to display their beauty to all and sundry. They feel that by covering up, you have given up your rights, and instead they think that you are being dominated by men or following faith blindly. So it is very important that you show them practically that we believe in a living God, and we follow the commandments of God, and we put God first before man. Now, deep down, many of the people are good-natured and they have good values, but we must bring this to the fore by explaining yourself and putting it into practice. If you do that, not only will you feel modest, but hopefully they too will understand why you are covering up and protecting yourselves. If you lower your standards to please people, then you will also be lost to the worldly desires and lose God. This is why Allah has informed us in the Quran that we should vie with one another in good works, chapter 2, verse 149. The emphasis is on good works, striving to please God and not man. So they need to understand that you wear the veil for modesty and righteousness. Again, the Holy Quran states that the best and most elegant dress is the raiment of righteousness, chapter 7, verse 27. The whole purpose of Allah sending the promised Messiah Islam to us and forming this community is that we should be like a beacon shining forth righteousness. Calling ourselves a Muslim is not enough. We have to show that what it means to be a Muslim. The promised Messiah has said, the believer has been commanded to make his manners and character so excellent that they become contagious. That was at volume 1, page 248. If we want to live in a good, God-fearing society, then we must show through our example good morals, modesty, good morals, and strive to always put God first. The Prophet ﷺ has said, you should do away with your shortcomings and make your words and your actions completely conform with the will of God. This is taken from Malfazat, volume 1, page 44. So purdah must be observed at work, in the streets, etc. It's not just for coming to the mosque or maybe at home if someone visits. Sometimes I hear reports of young ladies being seen moving around the streets and shops without head covering, sometimes holding hands with boys, etc. This is not what we expect from Ahmadis. Modesty must be observed, and you should take pride in covering up because you're doing it for Allah's sake. And when you strive to please Allah, then you feel better within yourselves. The clothes that you wear at work or in the street should be the same type of clothes that you would wear for the mosque. Any clothes that you would not wear to go to the mosque, then you should not be wearing them anywhere else. Islam has undoubtedly given women dignity and honor through hijab and purdah, and has provided a protection for her so that she can pursue her activities more freely. This gives Muslim women peace of mind. Now, you may have noticed that most Muslim women who follow the practice of hijab purdah appear to be more relaxed and at ease with themselves. This is because Islam has reduced the importance of physical appearance as a mark of self-esteem. A Muslim woman is free to develop in herself other talents and does not have to rely on her physical beauty to achieve what she wants. At the same time, when a woman practices hijab or purdah in the true manner, she fulfills her responsibility to society and gains satisfaction in the knowledge that she is able to gain the nearness to Allah. Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad Rahimahullah defined minimum Islamic purdah as wearing a loose-fitting outer garment and a headscarf. The face may be uncovered, but without makeup. He continued to say that this is adequate for sisters new to Islam and may be used by others who are unable to use the complete burqa. Generally, Islam requires modesty in dress with the arms and legs covered. Again, he's continued to say that clothes should be loose and the curves of the body should not be obvious, especially in public. A newcomer to Islam should not feel insecure about the way she dresses, as long as her dress follows the Islamic code of modesty. The conduct of a Muslim woman is a very important part of observing the hijab or purdah. Whether at work or among family and friends, a Muslim woman must conduct herself with great modesty and good behavior. It is advisable to avoid idle chit-chat with the opposite sex, mixed parties, and shaking hands with the opposite sex. So this is the talk for today. And like I say, the Nasra have done some very nice posters, which I've been trying to display. So now it's open for anybody who would like to make any comments, any questions they may ask, or maybe you want to explain how they have benefited from wearing purdah and so on and so forth. So has anybody got anything they would like to say?
Yes, Jazakallah for the talk, and we do have a few questions in the chat, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Okay, the first question is, what would you say to Ahmadi men who tell their wives not to wear hijab or parda?
As we've said, this is Islamic. So do you put man first or God? So even if it's your husband, it makes no difference. This is something where the women should definitely be wearing it. And if a man um, says otherwise, you should disobey them. It's not a question of trying to please the husband. You've got to be pleasing Allah. So it's un-Islamic that he's saying such a thing. How the woman wears it, I always think that's best for the women, that they know best how they want to wear it. A man should not dictate how they wear it, as long as they've been covering up as is expected, that the hair's covered up. But whether they want what I call a ninja look, or whether they want the scarf just under, just covering the chin, that's up to the lady. But for a man to say that they should not be wearing it, this is wrong, and they shouldn't listen to the husband or the father, or whoever it is. Any other question?
Yes, Jazakallah Mabisa. Next one is, what advice would you give to those women who go outside into marketplaces without headscarf or parda?
Well, again, why are they doing it? Don't they want the blessings of Allah? Do they really want Allah's displeasure? Why are they doing this? To please the people around? So, in the early days, when Muslims first came to this country, wearing the purdah was difficult. But these days, there are so many Muslim women and children who are observing purdah that man is used to it. So why? Why are they taking it off? This is what they should be asking themselves. That this is a commandment from Allah, and we should be fulfilling this. So there's no excuse. They should not be doing this. Anything else?
Yes, Jazakallah. Another question is, at what age can parents advise the daughters to start wearing hijab?
I mean, there's no fixed age as such, but I always think that a girl should start wearing the purdah scarf before she starts developing. And the reason for that is simple. That let's say, for instance, they go to secondary school, and if they start wearing the scarf from the very beginning, everyone is used to that, and so it's not a problem. But if they are going there 3, 4 years and then start to try and wear the scarf, it becomes very difficult. Now, I can give you an example of my own daughters. My eldest daughter, we was very concerned because when we was in Birmingham, she used to go to a girls' school. I think it was about 95% Muslims, and so Prada was not a problem at all. But when I came up here to Hartlepool, now this is a very much a white area, and at the school there was no Muslims. So this was my fear: what would happen? So actually, before starting the school, I spoke to the teachers and said, "Look, this is the thing that my daughter's always wearing purdah, and she's going to be wearing purdah to school, and I'm afraid that people might try and rip it off or something like that." So anyway, she went to the school, and there was no problems at all, and she became a prefect and so on and so forth. As with the younger daughter, because of the mother and the daughter wearing the scarves, she, from a very, very young age, used to, first of all, get a blanket and wrap it around her. And then she started wearing a scarf from a very young age in primary school. And again, no problems. And when she started going to secondary school, there were some Muslim girls who were not wearing a scarf, but maybe for example, mashallah, they're now wearing the scarves. And again, no problems. So if, in fact, she wouldn't wear it, I'm sure her friends would complain to her that, why are you not wearing the scarf? So I always think that this is up to the women, of course, and the children, but I would encourage that they should start wearing this as early as possible before they start developing, so that they are into this habit. And obviously, once they start developing, then they should be wearing it for sure. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, Jazakallah. I think we can skip this one because you already spoken about it. Its next one is, to what extent can parda be relaxed if a woman is working in a place where there are all ladies, example, a ladies salon?
If there's all ladies, I mean, ladies salon, I mean, as long as a window, you can't look into the window. But obviously, you know, that's like if there's a walima or something like this, and the ladies on the ladies' side, then of course then they can relax the purdah. That's not a problem, as long as there's no men coming in there. So this is what we say with the weddings and things like that, that no men should come on. There's no excuse for any men to come onto the lady's side. Women should serve themselves. Now, if it's a hair salon, let's say there's a man doing a sweeping up or anything like that, then of course, any person, any man there, that is something else. And if a man comes into the shop, then it's going to be very difficult to start covering up. So you have to use your own experience of what's happening there. What's the likelihood of anybody, any man coming in? But if it's just women, then it's not a problem, of course. That's a different thing. You're covering up for the men. So there, like I say, at work, you can relax somewhat, but you still should keep your hair covered and obviously wear loose clothing. And the most important thing when you're at work and there's males is keeping distance. So you should, I mean, sometimes you have to intermix, no doubt. You have to speak to your work colleagues and maybe do projects together at college, at work, or wherever. But there should always be that distance. And if at any time you start feeling any attraction towards a person, you should be avoiding that like the plague. So this is the responsibility for you. And again, for the men, they also should not be intermixing like this. Of course, we get, unfortunately, these days, a lot of reports of women having affairs, courtship, and things like this. And this is because they've allowed the barrier to go down. This is why we don't shake hands. So, because, you know, Fourth Khalifa Rahimahullah described this very nicely one time. He said it's like two bare wires. If they touch, there's a spark. Same with shaking hands. If they touch, there's a spark. We don't want that spark. We're quite happy to keep that distance. So, this is why if someone offers the hand, you should just politely say, no, we don't shake hands, and so on and so forth. Men and women, you should not be shaking hands with the opposite sex. So take precautions all the time. If you are in a workplace where there are men and so on and so forth, you have to be on your guard all the time. And if you can't, or if they say no, then they say you can't wear that, you're not allowed to wear a scarf or anything like that, then you should not work. So this should be a condition right from the beginning that this is me, I'm going to wear a scarf and so on and so forth. I think there was a report some time ago where a person went for a job interview without wearing a scarf, and then when got the job, started wearing a scarf, and then they complained. So the question comes, why did you go for a job interview without wearing a scarf? You should, right from the beginning, make it very, very clear. This is me. If you want me, I am having this purdah and so on and so forth. If you don't like purdah, then don't have me. Put God first before job, before everything. That's the most important thing. Okay, there's a hand up for RH. Do you want to ask a question? Or...
Assalamualaikum. I just wanted to ask, so what would the distinction between Burda be, you know, in regards to family, and like, you know, who would consider mahram and non-mahram? Like, what would the Burda situation be then?
Yeah, I mean, anybody you can marry, you've got to observe Burda. And again, what we see, especially in the weddings, still see it, unfortunately, should be there. These days, of course, everybody's got mobile phones, so it's quite easy to get a message to the women folk. But certainly in the early days, they used to send the boys across. Now, that's fine if they're small young boys, but boys grow up. And we used to see boys of 13, 14 going across, and this is no way. So, of course, anybody in the family who you can't marry, there's no purdah at all. But if there's someone, a cousin or something like that, who you can marry, then you have to wear purdah. You know, you have to wear the scarf. You have to keep the distance. This is obviously the danger when there's anybody there at all that you can marry. So, of course, in the house, you can relax. It don't have to be as strict as in the streets and things like that. But still, you should be wearing purdah. And this helps you as well, because it's like when I wear a beard, I think you become more righteous because you feel you're doing it for God. And for women, when she's wearing a scarf for God, that helps her to become more righteous. Once you start taking these things off, then you open the way for shaitan. So you've got to be very, very careful. So if there's anyone in your family who you can marry, you have to observe prayer to that person. Any other questions?
Yes, Murbi Sahib, Jazakallah. Alhamdulillah, we have got a very lineup of questions. Next one would be, it's been seen that some Ahmadi Muslim families who migrate to the Western countries, they relax the restrictions on parda within the families a little bit. So they are not called backwards. So what tip would you give to those families who undertake this kind of actions?
Unfortunately, I think it's also happening these days in many Muslim countries, in Pakistan and things like that. They're becoming more and more lax, and that's a shame. Of course, you're in a non-Muslim country, and of course, the people, the society, they have a different outlook. But like I say, these days there are so many Muslims around the world that people are used to it. I don't think there's any English person who doesn't know about it. Whether they like it or not, that's a different thing. But they know about it. So yes, it doesn't matter which country you are, whether it's a Muslim country, non-Muslim country, you still should be observing Purdah for Allah's sake and keep that strictness within yourself. And if you do that, you can safeguard all the problems. As I said, these days, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of the youngsters who are getting involved in courtships. And how? You know, I often get these letters. Even today, I've had a number of letters from people saying, "Oh, I'm in love with this person. How can I marry this person?" So on and so forth. And my answer straight away is, "How come? You should not be doing any courtship. Courtship. You shouldn't have been there in the first place. How did you fall in love with a person?" So once you start lowering these standards, then all the dangers come. And so you've got to be very, very careful. Yeah, next question or
Jazakallah. Jazakallah, Murbi Sahib. Yes. Next one is, if you adopt a son, would you and your daughters have to do parda around them as they are still be non-mahram, right?
sorry, you've adopted a child. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you adopted a son, would you and your daughters have to do parda
No,
around
it's
them?
your son now. You've adopted it, still it's your son. So as far as I understand, adopted son, you don't marry. So that's not the problem.
Okay, Jazakallah.
I could be wrong,
Uh,
but as far as I'm aware, it's adopted son. So obviously you can't in the house all the time be observing Purdah to the son as such. So obviously they're growing up in a household, and that's a different kettle of fish.
Jazakallah. Why is the restrictions on hijab so strict in Islam and not in Christianity?
Well, it was. And this is what we say, that when you have a look at any picture of Mary, the mother of Jesus, she wears a hijab. The nuns used to wear hijab. And it's only since the Second World War, when the Second World War happened, then the women started going out to do work because men were fighting wars. And standards started dropping. And you see then in the 50s, slowly, the dresses start getting higher and lower and so on and so forth. The swinging 60s, and then of course after that it just everything went out the window. All these taboos and stuff like that have just now gone. So that's society of today. But if you go back, like say pre-war, then of course they used to wear long dresses and clothes and scarves on their heads and things like that. And it was very common that women used to wear scarves going out in those days. Fashion has changed, outlook has changed, but we as Muslims, we should be keeping strict because we're doing it for Allah's sake.
ठीक है, Jazakallah Murbi Sahib. University is very challenging. How can Ahmadi girls wear hijab or refuse alcohol when she is a refresher, for example, first years, because she needs friends?
So, as I said, you set the example. If you start behaving differently as to what your parents would expect from you, what everyone would expect from you, just to please people, just to be friends, then all the dangers come. We know in university there are so many dangers. So as you mentioned there, drink, drugs, discos, all these sorts of things. Where does it stop? Once you start going down this path, then it will lead you far away until eventually you will have no faith. And this is quite common in universities that they don't care about religion. So as an Ahmadi girl, we expect them that when they go to university, they should be observing Purdah, should be behaving properly. And the parents, they have to look at their children. If they feel that their child is easily influenced and will be led astray, then they shouldn't send her to university. Obviously, they should think about what do they want. Do they want to lose their child just so she gets a better education, maybe get a better job? No, there should be limits. So if you feel that your daughter or son, it works with men as well, are pious and they're not going to be influenced by the society, then fine. But if you feel that they are already showing signs of being liberal and not following the prayer, not doing the prayers properly or anything like this, then it's very dangerous to send them to university. And this is what we're saying. I mean, we do see, unfortunately, not a lot, but some of the Ahmadi children going to university and coming back ruined. Either they no longer Muslim, or they've got affairs, or they're into drinking or drugs or whatever, just so they please man. So always try to please God. And if you try to please God, then you'll always be on the right path. Okay, any other questions or someone wants to say anything?
No, Jazakallah Barbisab, there are no more questions, and we are approaching namaz time very quickly, so it's a good time to wrap it up.
Well, is anybody else got anything they want to say beforehand? Otherwise, we will finish it. Okay. Well, anyway, very good. Now,
Yes. Sorry.
yes, please.
I wanted to ask in regards to, because we've been talking about Burda in regards to women, but how do we specifically then apply Burda in regards to men?
As the verse we started, it's also applies to men. They have to keep their eyes cast downwards, and they have to keep their thoughts pure. Now, the problem in this society is that because women often wear low cut tops, if you keep your eyes downwards, that's also going to cause trouble. And if you look up in the sky, it's rude and so on and so forth. But the main purdah is of the mind. Keep your thoughts pure. So men also should be observing purdah. They should not be looking unwantedly at women, gazing at them lovingly and things like this, or looking at TV programs, which is, again, displaying the beauties of women and so on and so forth. So they also have a duty. They will also be answerable to Allah. Just because women have been asked to cover up, that in fact is because of the weakness of man. Unfortunately, we are a very weak lot. And if a woman's showing her beauty, we will gaze and we will go astray. So this is why Allah said that please for the women to help these poor lot, the men folk. But we have a duty. We should be keeping our eyes cast downwards. It means that keeping your mind clean as possible and not gazing at women wrongly or anything like this. So that's their responsibility as well. And they also, with the clothes, it doesn't mean that they go around displaying their body and things like this. They should also be thinking about what they're wearing and what effect that can have on people. So they have a responsibility as well. It's not just the women. That's why the verses that we started with began, first of all, addressing the men, that they should keep their eyes cast downwards and keep their mind pure, and then to the women. Yes, Quran student Toby. Is that Toby or is that someone else? I don't know. But yes, you want to say something?
Yeah, Assalamualaikum. Sorry, Rabbi Sabi. Yeah, it's me, student. I was just in the class. I think you have already answered my question, which I wanted. So I won't waste a lot of time. I think you beautifully say that even men, when we are buying clothing, sometimes we have to be mindful. You don't have to buy trousers which are very tight. You cannot even move your leg forward or backward. So again, that is something which we actually have to look at in way how the dress code is. Equally, yes, I know most of the time we buy shirts and we want to show off because we have been, not necessarily in a bad way, because we have been working out in gym and then we want to show that we got big arm and so on and so forth. Great. I'm not jealous anyway because I don't have big arm, but the fact of the matter is modesty is very important, that as we go, whether we are in the training grounds, some of us, we are footballers, we do athletes. Now that obviously COVID has done a tremendous work for all of us, that there's no shaking of hands, and where even men used to stand side by side while they are urinating, I would use the word, now that due for COVID, there has been a restriction. So just to add on the point of respected Rabbi Saab just mentioned, that I think modesty, to answer the sister which has mentioned, the modesty to the side of men is also tremendous, that we need to show as an example. And if you're a man and you're walking with your wife, if say, or your sister, ideally you should be there as somebody would see. I remember one time Murabi Sab himself, who is online, mentioning that if my wife can cover herself, I have also to put on my heart so that people can know that this person belongs to this person. And I apologize, Murabi Sahab, if I misquoted you, but I remember 2008, 2009, one time you mentioned. So that is what I wanted to share. Jazakumullah khairan.
Zakma, yes, I think it's very true. I mean, just because women wear the scarf, I think men should also wear a hat as well. And obviously, like you say, we should be not like this. Sometimes you hear customs of man being uh, 10 yards behind or 10 feet behind or something like that. Of course, you should be walking with your wife and family. And that also is a means of protection. Right, we are running out of time, but Mariam, you got your hand up. You want to ask something?
Yes, Murabis, Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, Sly.
Yes, one thing that also came to mind in terms of men covering up. Sometimes, especially during the summer times, even some Ahmadi men, perhaps I've seen one or two, they do tend to wear shorts because it's hot and it seemed to be okay. But then I don't know how far our teachings say regarding that. Yeah, in that respect, please, if you could enlighten us on that, Jazakallah.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember watching the Kabaddi, and I found that a very strange Muslim event because it seemed to be all about showing off yourself and boastful and things like that, similar to wrestling and maybe boxing of this day and age. Um, Obviously, if you're playing football and things like that, you're wearing shorts, but you should be wearing a top as well. Ideally, the minimum dress for a man is from the waist to the knees. That's what they should be covering up. That's the minimum amount. But, Hazur, again, on this point, he is constantly stressing that, uh, especially for the imams, that they should not be wearing tight trousers, and you should be thinking about the clothes that you are wearing. Um, so we have a duty. We should be thinking about the clothes and why are we wearing them? Is there a reason? Obviously, if you're going swimming and stuff like that, then that's something else. You obviously, if you're wearing too much baggy clothes, that's going to cause a bad effect and it's going to drag you under as well. So it depends on the situation. But if you can, then obviously you should try and cover up as much as possible. Okay, I think we have run out of time, but I was very pleased that the women have contributed a great deal, and this is what I was hoping from today's subject. As I said, this was a Lajna subject that they requested. So anybody who's got any subject that they want to discuss, please let us know, and inshallah, we can look into that and maybe try and cover that subject. Right, let's finish it now because I know you've got prayers. So please join me in silent prayer. Bismillah. Army. I don't know if any of the Nasurat in the Midlands, any of those drawings that I showed, but mashallah, I hope you've enjoyed these drawings. I think they've done a very good efforts. Every one of them was very good standard. So my barcode to all that that have been showing these. So we're very pleased that they have. Okay, assalamu alaikum.